Hello, trumpet players. Today, this is an unscheduled video. This is just something I wanted to put out there for those of you who are interested in the classical all-state auditions in Texas. This is for Texas high school students. If you're a trumpet player in Texas, the music has already been announced what book the music is coming from. Okay? It's the Voxman Selected Studies. It looks like this. And the recommendation I have for you now, if you're into the classical stuff, the jazz stuff, music for that will be released in about 2 weeks, 3 weeks from now. But for the classical guys, well, I highly recommend doing everything that you can at this point to get ready before the music comes out. I know a lot of you are looking forward to time off over the summer. Summer, if you're serious about making all-state, the summer is the time when you should be working the hardest. You can get your skills up to a certain level now and not have to spend the time getting your skills up when the music is announced. They announced the music, the exact etudes, they announced them at the TBA convention in San Antonio. That's, I think, in late July. Between now, today it's April now, between April and July, late July, you can be spending this time preparing for all-state, but in a general way instead of a specific way. And one of the ways you can do that is find recordings of these etudes and listen to them. I give my students, I tell them to listen 10 times. And we don't want to look at the music while we're doing that. And fortunately, someone has already recorded the etudes from this book, not all of them. And I might record some myself if I look through what this guy has recorded. And if I think something's missing, I might do some of them myself too. And I will also say that there are stylistic differences between the way this guy plays and what I would recommend. But I still think that it's better to listen to something representing these etudes over the summer, even though maybe the style isn't exactly what I would do, okay? And I'm saying this to my students as much as I am to anybody else. So I'm gonna put a link. You can either click this icon up in the corner to get to that link, to that playlist, or you can wait until the end of the video and then there'll be a box at the end of the video where you can click there. And the whole idea is to get the style of these etudes into your head. I don't mean the style of the playing, the style of the etudes themselves, okay? Because even though this is a selected studies book where different composers are contributing to the same book, it's still a similar style throughout the book. So we want to have that familiarity with that style of music before the music comes out. And the best way to do that, listen to that guy's playlist 10 times. Keep track too, not about 10 times. Make it 10 times, at least 10 times. And the way you're going to know that is to write it down. How many times did you get through the playlist? All right? I'm going to say one more time, I don't agree with the guy's style 100%. But it is better to have that than to not have that. And if you know personally of other recordings out there, then I would add that to the list of recordings that you can listen to. But that's what you want to do for now, besides the stuff you should be practicing. Now let's also, since we're at it, let's also talk about what you should be practicing now if you're serious about making the classical all-state next year. That's either the orchestra or the symphonic band or concert band, whatever they call those. You need to learn and become fluent with all your scales, and I prefer in that case to do the patterns over the scales. You need to be fluent with them. And you need to also start practicing arpeggios. If you don't practice arpeggios, you're making learning the all-state music a lot more difficult. Get yourself an Arbin book. There's also, at the end of the Voxman book, there are arpeggio studies. See, it says arpeggios. If you're not practicing this stuff, you're going to make it more difficult for yourself when you start practicing the etudes. And I want to warn you, don't practice the etudes, okay? Don't practice through all the etudes thinking that you have a chance that you might practice the right one. Don't do that. Don't do that. Listen first. You know, the listening thing. There was a guy, a classical pianist, famous teacher. His name was Theodore Leschetizky. I hope I'm saying that right. And he's the one that, as far as I know, invented the whole working backwards thing. If you don't know what working backwards is, let me know. Maybe I'll make a video out of it. But he also had a saying, and I want to stress this for everyone who wants to compete ever in music. He also had a saying, think 10 times and then play the passage. Think 10 times. In other words, don't just be sure that you're playing the music right. Be 10 times sure that you're absolutely sure that you're going to play the right notes and the right rhythms and all the stuff that goes with the music. The problem with a lot of the students today that I work with out when I'm doing clinics and stuff like that, the problem I see is that a lot of you jump in there. You know that whole old saying, right? Look before you leap. You don't look. You're not careful first before you start. And what that translates into in your audition is sloppiness. You know, when I'm judging, if I put next in your little column at the end where I can put notes, because it's such a small space, I just use abbreviations. And if you look at your box and I have a SL in your box, that means you were sloppy. What is the definition to me of sloppiness is random mistakes in every measure. Random little mistakes. You know, a blip note, a bending the notes, a little off on the rhythms. You know, I think a lot of times when you're listening to yourself, you're hearing, instead of what's coming out, you're hearing what you meant to do. And you can't operate that way. That sloppiness it'll take someone who feels to themselves like they're all-state material and it put you all the way at the bottom of the list. The sloppiness thing is a horrible thing to your competition results. You don't want that to happen, okay? And the reason I'm telling you that is because things like listening and practicing your arpeggios, practicing your scales, learning as many different rhythms as you can possibly learn, and just being, in an overall sense, prepared for the music before it comes out. This is how you make sure before you start that you're not practicing wrong rhythms, that you're not practicing wrong notes, that you're not just doing it wrong, right? The listening is a big part of that, though. That's what this video is about, is listening. You can do some listening now because we know what the book is. I'll show you one more time. Voxman Selected Studies. Just be careful. Don't jump into that book already. Listen first. Always listen. You live in a blessed time when it comes to listening. You can listen to all kinds of stuff, and it's practically free. Take advantage of that blessing and listen. Do your think 10 times first before you play. Okay? That's all I got for you. That's my recommendation. That's what what I'm going to be telling my students this week. We know what the music is. Let's start getting that into your skull, into your noggin, so that when the music comes out, it's not entirely new to you. It'll sound familiar already. Okay? All right. Well, that's what I got. I have a whole bunch of videos to do today, but I wanted to get that out first. All right? God bless you. And if you have any questions, just ask.